Hi everyone, this is Pastor Dan from Calvary Chapel, Cle Elum, Washington. When it comes to the teaching of lessons, probably those that may be a little difficult, there is nothing like a good illustration to get the point across. A good illustration will always utilize something that most people can relate to. If I can understand what's being said in this thing that I can relate to, then maybe I'll understand when I see the similarity to the thing that is harder for me to understand. Let me give you an illustration that's been used in several sermons through the years so that hopefully you'll understand what I'm saying about illustrations. A member of a certain church who previously had been attending services regularly stopped going. After a few weeks, the minister decided to visit him. It was a chilly day. That evening, the minister found the man at home all alone, sitting by a blazing fire. Guessing the reason for his minister's visit, the man welcomed him and led him to a comfortable chair near the fireplace, and then he waited. The minister made himself at home but didn't say anything. In this grave silence, he contemplated the dance of the flames around the burning logs. And then after some minutes, he got up, he took the fire tongs, he carefully picked up a brightly burning ember, and he placed it to one side of the hearth all by itself. Then he sat back in the chair, still silent. The host watched all of this in quiet contemplation, and as the one lone ember's flame began to flicker and then diminish, there was momentary glow, and then its fire was gone. Soon it was cold and dead. Not a word had been spoken since the initial greeting. The minister glanced at his watch and chose this time to leave. He slowly stood up, picked up the cold, dead ember, and placed it in the middle of the fire. And immediately it began to glow once more, with the light and the warmth of the burning coals around it. And with that, the minister smiled at his host, shook his hand, and let himself out. Now, what this minister did with this church member was kind of like a silent sermon. And what was the lesson he was trying to teach? He was trying to teach the importance of fellowship. That if we don't have regular fellowship with God's people, we will struggle and perhaps eventually die spiritually. Our little ember sitting off by itself will eventually flicker out and die. Now let me make an important point here. Do you want to know what the greatest type of illustration is? It's the example of our own lives. Our lives serve as illustrations. We're illustrating how to do various things. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to train people in the various jobs I've had. I've found that the most effective way of teaching someone else is to explain what needs to be done while I show them by doing it myself. They get the precepts, but they also get the example. And then I give them the opportunity to do it themselves while I just sit back and watch so that they can ask questions if they need to. I find that having them see me do it first while I explain how to do it and why provides the important link between learning by precept and launching out and doing it themselves. So our example is really important when it comes to effective teaching. But you may be saying, that's fine for those who want to teach, but I don't really want to teach. So I can do whatever I want. I don't have to be a good example. It's interesting that some celebrities, especially sports celebrities, seem to feel this way. They say they don't want to be role models, and so they can live whatever way they want, and it shouldn't matter. But it does matter, because young and old alike are watching, and sometimes they use the bad examples as excuses for their own bad behavior. And it's true, people make their own choices and are responsible for them. But celebrities can't ignore the fact that their poor example may be influencing someone else to make bad decisions. And I believe responsibility has to be accepted for that. Well, the fact is that at some point or at various points in our lives, we are all celebrities in someone else's life. Probably the most significant example of this is parents to their own young children. How about employers to their employees? How about one friend to another? You see, the way we live and what we do influences people. We may not want to, it may not be our intention, but we do it nonetheless. Family, friends, children, everyone who knows us watches us, and many times they follow the good and bad of our example. It may be conscious or unconscious, intentional or unintentional. We may want them to follow us or not want them to. It really doesn't matter. Many will follow our example. The point is this: the life we live sets a pattern for others to follow. This says something of critical importance to us. We must live lives on the highest plane possible. We have to be the best pattern possible for others to follow. And it also says that we should follow after others who live on the highest plane possible as well. We should mark those who walk as godly examples and imitate the great traits of their lives. This is what we'll be talking about over the next 4 weeks. So next week in part 2, we'll get into this passage from Philippians 3:17 to 21, and we'll talk about running after or following a godly example. It's an important piece of this overall lesson, so I hope you'll join me for that. Once again, I hope this has been an encouragement to you. If it has, would you do me a favor? Give it a like, a comment, share it with others. And if you're watching on the Calvary Chapel Cle Elum YouTube channel, would you subscribe to the channel? If you're in the Cle Elum area and you don't have a home church, would you consider joining us on Sunday morning at 10 a.m., 417 East Railroad Avenue in Cle Elum, Washington? Again, this is Pastor Dan from Calvary Chapel Cle Elum. Thanks for joining me today. May God bless you and keep you. And until we're able to get together next week, my prayer is that we will seek to follow after and seek to be godly examples that others can follow. In Jesus' name.